Our last mini series of conversations was on looking at our individual relationship with sex and what may be within our individual relationship with sex that may be limiting not only our experience of sex but limiting our experience of self as a sexual being. That may be that our sex is still very based on the mechanics of sex, the physicality of sex. It may be that we're not aware of what we are bringing into the arena of the bedroom. Sometimes we're not conscious about what we are bringing into our sexual relationships. It may be something that we learnt behavior. It may be some kind of expectation or agenda or exchange. It may be trauma. It may be abuse. It may be religion. It may be unhealthy beliefs that we are bringing into our sex that is limiting our experience and therefore limiting the expansion and the knowing of our sexual being. This next mini-series I will be sharing with you Tantric sex. So today I will begin with what is Tantric sex and what is the difference between Tantric sex and the sexual education that we have. The sex education that we are given is very much physical. It's very much A to B. It's very much penetration to ejaculation, or penetration to a physical orgasm. It's very much based on the physical. It's based on performance and based on positions. And very much the external, because it's about release. Our sex education is also very limited to our genitals, our vagina, our penis, our lingam, our yoni, and it's also very confined and defined by our gender. So there is much about our sex and our sex education that is limiting to our experience and limiting to who we are, because we are not going any deeper than the physical and the sexual energy, which is very powerful, is being released. So we're taught about the surface level, the physical, and we're taught about release. That sensation of arousal that we've been taught to get rid of, or we've been taught to suppress. Tantric sex is internal. It is not about physical, and it is not about positions. Although those two things are welcome, it is not about them. That is not where the focus is. Tantric sex is an internal experience, and from that internal experience, we are very aware of a sexual being, and we are very aware of an expansion that happens internally. Lots of spirituality is very much based on mind expansion, and we can very much focus on something or beyond us, separate to us, like God or the universe. Whereas in Tantric sex, it's more of an internal knowing of that expansion of our essence, of the universe, of God. It's an internal. So that is one difference between our physical sex that we know, the mechanics of sex, and Tantric sex. It's internal. It is also not based on our genitals alone. It is about our whole physical self, our whole emotional self, our whole mental self, our whole essence, being invited into the experience of sex with another. Tantric sex harmonises. It very much meets the masculine and the feminine within us, and the masculine and feminine exchange. It's very much based on their energy being something not to release and get rid of or suppress, but very much stepping into that energy as our own evolution, as our own growth, as our own nourishment, as our own food. And we can have that experience on our own as an individual, and we can also have that experience with another. So also tantric sex is not relying and dependent and relationship with other. There is a wholeness within ourselves, so that when we come together with another and there is harmony, then there is a different flavour of expansion. I want to reassure you that I'm not wanting to make the physical side of sex wrong. There is no wrong or right. Tantric sex offers us the depth that maybe we feel is missing in physical sex. It is offering us nourishment. It is offering us growth. The physicality of sex even becomes limited in we're not growing. We're not growing in it. Yes, we can have different relationships and different experiences within those relationships, but there's no growth happening. Whereas in tantric sex, there is always growth. No experience is the same as the other. It's very present. It's very new. It's very fresh. It's very alive. It's very spontaneous. But also there doesn't have to be any action. There's beingness to tantric sex because there are two sexual beings which have looked at their relationship with sex and what is limiting it. So they're coming together in a very conscious way, where they've done the work on our own relationship with sex, which is why I say that Tantra is a very individual journey. And then we come together with another. It's not seeing the other as what makes us whole. And a lot of our relationships and sex is like that. It's more about coming into our own wholeness. And that does mean mind, body, soul and sex, because we are very much sexual beings. We were created from sex. Sex is in ourselves. It's the groundedness of us. It's the embodiment of us. And tantric sex is very much in alignment with this expansion and supporting harmony. Tantric sex is also, it's a very heartful experience. It's love, whereas in our physical sex, it can very easily cut off the heart, and the experience may not even reach the heart. Our physical sex, as I said, is very functional. We have been taught very functional, mechanical sex, and this is why I believe we seek this moreness in sex. That's what our drive is. We seek this moreness because something in us knows there is more, and there is more. There is a depth to sex, and there is an expansion to sex, and there is an aliveness to sex, and there is love and honor and beauty. There is so much more available to us in tantric sex rather than the one flavor of physical sex. There are a lot of misconceptions about tantric sex. Tantric sex, you do not have to be spiritual. You do not have to have a religion. You do not have to have a belief. And so in that respect, all you are being open to is a willingness to explore more of who you are, and be willing to dissolve and release what may be in a way of who you are. The other myth may be that tantric sex lasts for hours, and it can, but it's not as we presume it to be, because we think of sex, of the very physical, of the action. We then have this misconception that tantric sex means it's completely physical for a certain length of time, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. It's not, but we are in the field. I wouldn't even say we're making love, because that's an effort. We are in the field of love and sex, the beingness of it. Tantric sex isn't asking for action. It's not asking for yang, the action. It's inviting the yin, the beingness, the receptiveness, the immersion, the depth, the melting, the yielding. So therefore it's not all action, and it's not even all within the bedroom. There is much that happens within the environment between two people before the action may or may not happen. There is the beingness together and how energy moves within ourselves and within our partner, and whether those the yin and yang, the masculine and feminine within us, is also speaking and singing and relating with the masculine and the feminine within the other, and how actually when this happens there is nourishment, and there is evolving, and we are actually in our relationships not just in harmony, but actually supporting each other's growth and expansion, and supporting and inviting the other to truly be who they are, because we are nourishing that growth and expansion. So this is the difference between tantric sex and the physical sex, and over the next few videos I will be sharing that more in depth with you.